As a child, the first CD I ever owned was an album by Ace of Base, and they had this song called The Sign. And at the end of the chorus, the singer says, "No one's gonna drag you up to get into the light where you belong." And that line perfectly encapsulates the energy of the new moon eclipse in Leo happening August 12th, 2026. This eclipse is here to help us become more of ourselves, but it's also got this edginess of the fact that we have to ultimately be the ones to shine our light. What's challenging about being authentic isn't always knowing what that means to you. It's actually standing firm in who you know yourself to be. If you want to be authentic, you have to do more than just know who you are. You have to be willing to assert yourself, to truly individuate from the crowd and stand on your own. You have to know which hills you're willing to die on, what values you're willing to fight for. And at the end of the day, you've got to do the hard work of embodying what you know to be true for yourself. That's what this eclipse is ushering in for all of us. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back. I am Dana Solara. I'm an astrologer and spiritual coach, and we are talking today about the new moon eclipse happening August 12th, 2026 at 20 degrees Leo. As I said, the theme of this eclipse is really about a forced confrontation with fear around visibility and authenticity, likely showing up as identity resets, possibly job changes, or coming out, so to speak, more publicly with your true light. Here's why I'm saying that. I'm going to go ahead and put the chart on the screen for us so we can see what's going on here. When we look at Leo, we see that Mercury is at 5 degrees, Jupiter's at 9, and the new moon itself is happening at 20 degrees. This means that Jupiter and Mercury are in the first decan of Leo, and the eclipse itself is in the third. Now, a couple of things about this. Any planets that are co-present with the eclipse are flavoring the feel of it. And so let's think for a second about Mercury and Jupiter in the first decan of Leo. Mercury is the details, it's the analysis, it's the critical mind, it's the scientist, the inventor, the deal maker, it's commerce and business. And Jupiter is the big picture. It's the pastor, the planner, the grower. It makes things more abundant, but Jupiter and Mercury are actually two sides of the same coin in some ways, where Jupiter is the big picture. It sees how it all connects and it can connect those dots, and Mercury knows exactly what the dots are. So with them together, that's actually really incredible for the details and the big picture coming together. One important thing to note about this particular situation is Mercury and Jupiter did not conjoin in Cancer when they were both in Cancer back in June. And the reason that they didn't is because Mercury stationed retrograde just before conjoining Jupiter. Now, Jupiter and Mercury will conjoin. Let's see exactly when that will happen. It'll be right after the eclipse. It's going to happen August 15th, so 3 days after the eclipse at 10 degrees. And so that's interesting to me because it suggests that very quickly after the eclipse, there's some kind of coalescing of the details in the big picture. Something makes a lot of sense. This first decan of Leo is a lot about facing fear around criticism of your identity. Here's why. The two co-rulers of this decan are the Sun and Saturn. You're seeing Saturn here because this is representing the Chaldean order. So one system of rulership for the decans. There's another system that uses the triplicity system. And in that system, the ruler of the first decan is always the planet that rules the sign. So in this case, it's the Sun, which means the Sun and Saturn rule this decan. If you combine those topics, you get a sense of wanting to shine your light in your unique brilliance, but the fear of rejection and exile, that's Saturn. Now, the tarot card associated with the first decan of Leo is the Five of Wands, which is the scene of 5 people in combat with their wands. So it tells me that there's some kind of turmoil, possibly, around how to bring together the details in the big picture. Similarly, it could also be doubts, Mercury, again, being the critical mind, and that's not always a negative thing. A scientist has a critical mind, right? There's a questioning here, and with Jupiter, there's faith, hope, and belief. And so we have these dichotomous energies co-present in this first decan where it's like we really want to believe, we really want to hope and bet on ourselves. But there's this question of, can I do it? And I'm making it personal because we're in Leo, the sign of the sun, the sign of the individual. So there is something that we're working out around what we hope, what we believe, what's possible, and the questions we have around that. Meanwhile, the eclipse itself is happening in the last decan of Leo. Now, this is a double Mars ruled decan. It's ruled by Mars in both systems. So it gives this really strong fighting warrior energy, strategizing energy even to this decan. The tarot card associated with it is the Seven of Wands. And that image has a person on top of a hill who is battling, okay? And so that's where I get this energy of, what are the hills you're willing to die on? And maybe not die on, but fight on. What is worth standing up for to you? And because Jupiter is co-present, it does feel like we're clarifying our values with this eclipse. Like, what matters to me? And what values am I willing to make the foundation and the bedrock of who I choose to be in this world? Where am I willing to be different, even if people don't get it, even if people actively don't like it? That's what authenticity is really all about. It's not just about knowing who you are. The way we talk about authenticity, it feels very much like easy, I think. Like, oh, just be authentic. Well, that kind of ignores the fact that being authentic requires you to separate yourself from other people. And that can be really fucking scary for some, because we're social creatures. We don't want to be rejected. We don't want people to not like us. But true authenticity, true individuation requires you to stand on your values. It requires you to be who you are, even when other people don't like it. And that's the vibe that this eclipse is bringing to the function. Let's get really authentic, right? And to take it back to the song lyrics, no one's going to drag you up to get into the light where you belong. No one's going to make it easy for you to be authentic, because everybody's got an opinion about stuff, right? And the reality is, you could never, ever, ever be a kind of person that every single person on the planet likes. So there's a way in which we are willing to fight for what truly matters to us and to assert our authenticity in a more, maybe not, hopefully not aggressive. There's a potential for that here, of course, but in a way that is unafraid of what other people are going to think about it. There's a courage to this eclipse that I really love. And I think it reminds us that, like, no one's coming to save us. We have to be our own hero. No one's going to drag you up to get into the light where you belong. We all have a unique brilliance. We all have something that we are here to give that only we can give to the collective. That's what being authentic is all about. It's not just about you feeling good in your body and in your life, although of course it is. It's also about you being in a place where you can give what you're here to give to the collective. That's the beauty and the gift of being authentic. You cannot do that if you're waiting for everybody to accept and like you. You cannot do that if you're only authentic when it gets you validation. That's not being authentic. So this is what we're working with this eclipse, okay? And I think what it's going to have us do is get out of our comfort zone. And so now eclipses are rarely acute, meaning I doubt that on August 12th, you're going to notice this. Maybe you will, especially if you have natal placements being activated by this. Typically what happens is eclipses unfold over time, and we can look back and see, yeah, that was a big deal, or yeah, that didn't really affect me so much. So I'm going to get into horoscopes now and talk about what each rising sign can expect. And again, if you don't have any natal placements being activated by this eclipse, you may not notice it personally. If you do, then you probably will. So Leo risings, let's start with you. This eclipse is happening in your first house, which is the place of identity, self, body, how you interface with the world as a spirit in a human body. And for you, this is about showing up exactly as yourself without a filter. The shadow of Leo is performing. And performing in itself is not shadow. But if you're performing authenticity, if you're performing a version of yourself that you think will get you attention or get you likes on your Instagram or whatever, obviously there's a level of inauthenticity there. So I think here with this eclipse, this is a moment where you refuse to dim your personality or your opinions just to keep someone else comfortable. I wonder, as Leo risings, if some of your maybe shadow performative nature isn't dimming your light a little bit, because as a Leo rising, you're bold. Now, of course, this is depending on where your sun is, but generally speaking, Leo risings, they don't hold back. They are expressive. They do wear their heart on their sleeves. They care a lot. And they, again, depending on where the natal sun is, have the propensity to be really authentic just naturally. So there could be a way in which you recognize that you've been dimming your light to keep other people comfortable and you're no longer willing to do that, that you've been a little too humble. So all in all, this is a new territory for your identity and your sense of self. I'm thinking about someone I know who's a Leo rising, who's starting a new job right now. Very textbook, very maybe boring, I guess, in terms of astrological manifestations, but it makes sense that she's stepping into a bit of a new identity here. And it's worth noting that the job that she left, she felt like she wasn't being utilized to her fullest potential. This is a person who's extremely good at her job. And this old job was really not recognizing that, again, not using her to her fullest potential. And she knew that. And this job is, a promise of her really getting to fully express her talents. And so that's what I think you have to look forward to. Now, I do want to point out the fact that Mars is freshly in Cancer. This actually has nothing to do with the eclipse, except for the fact that it's happening during the eclipse. But Mars in your 12th house is a little crunchy, right? And it's in fall in Cancer. So it's a time where you also want to be really reflective, because you may become aware of the ways in which you hold yourself back. And Mars in your 12th house is actually great for cutting that out, for recognizing that and releasing it. You could also be like really tired during this time while Mars is in Cancer. So it's a good time to slow down, to reassess, and to consider the extent to which the person you are showing the world reflects the person you know yourself to be, and finding opportunities that help you maximize the person that you really want to be in the world, okay? So that's my Leo rising friends. Excited for you. All right, Cancer risings, let's go to you. This is going to put the eclipse in your second house. And the second is the house of your resources, your values, your self-worth, your skills, your talents, what you have at your disposal, and also the way you nourish yourself. So I think this eclipse is about owning what you're worth instead of waiting for someone else to validate you. I would imagine as a Cancer rising that you are quite relational and that it helps to have other people validate you. And I totally get that as a Libra rising, but this is a moment where you're not willing to wait for other people to tell you that you're good. I'm actually reminded of a movie quote. I can't remember what movie it's from, but this character says, if you don't do this yourself, you'll never know if you're any good. And you'll never be any good if you don't know that you are. So there's this kind of awakening, I think, with this eclipse of like, you know what? I do have a lot to offer. I am fucking awesome. I'm not going to wait for somebody else to tell me that. And it's really reinforced by Mars being in your first house at this time too. Like, I am going for it. I'm not going to wait for people to lift me up. Again, no one's going to drag you up to get into the light where you belong. You are more assertive and more willing to bet on your own talents at this time, and you're recognizing where you need to. So something like asking for a raise or a rate increase, that feels very much like something that could happen during this time. This could also be standing up for your values around money or possessions. For example, refusing a deal or a job that asks you to compromise on your values. Like, here's what I am and am not willing to do for money and to resource myself. But overall, I see you fighting for what you need to sustain yourself and what you deserve as well. There's a reconnection to the value that you bring to the table. And I love that for you. So rooting for you, Cancer risings. Let's move on to Gemini risings. This is putting the eclipse in your third house, the house of communication, of siblings, neighbors, learning, and your daily environment. I think there's a new idea here that you need to get out, and that's very unique to you. There's some fear around people not getting it. especially, I can't help but notice, hello, Uranus in your first house. Like, you are in your weirdo era, and I'm here for it. I love it. I hope you're here for it too. It could feel very disorienting. And whatever idea or the thing you're trying to publish with this eclipse, it feels like there's this fear around, will people get it? And I want you to trust that the people who it's for will get it. And the people who won't get it, it's not for them. This eclipse is giving you the push to finally say it, to finally do it, to finally express it. It's very much about communication and ideas and getting the idea out there, publishing it, posting it, speaking up in a conversation even that maybe you've been rehearsing in your head for months, planning forever and ever. It's time to say it, whatever it is. It could also be a situation with a sibling or a neighbor that forces you to stop softening your words and say what you actually think. So this is a lot about being willing to individuate for all of us. But with you specifically, it's about your ideas, your words, your communications. And I do think that it's connected to what's going on in your first house right now, just given the fact that, Mercury's also co-present. Mercury is, of course, the ruler of Gemini. So there's something about the details and the big picture, again, Mercury, Jupiter, that's coming together here. You're ready to say it, whatever it is, no matter how freaking weird it might seem to you, or no matter how much fear there is around how other people will receive it, you're ready to say it. So don't hold back. It's time to say the thing. Okay, this puts our Taurus friends on the ascendant. My Taurus peeps, you've got Leo in your fourth house of home, family, ancestry, roots, and private life. This may be more quiet or internal for you. The fourth house tends to be, despite the fact that it's angular in one of the more loud houses. The fourth house is the house of your home, family, ancestry, lineage, and the most private self. So it can be quite internal, the experience of a fourth house transit. There's, I think, for you, a recognition with this eclipse of something within you that needs to assert itself, something that needs to be acknowledged, even if only within your inner world, about what truly matters to you now at this point in time. Possibly also, because we're in the fourth house, about family, home, maybe even fathers. The fourth house is also the place of endings, according to Robert Schmidt. And that means that you could be recognizing where you need to stop doing something, a way of being, a way of relating, particularly with family and home, that's no longer aligned, no longer authentic for you. So you may actually be letting something go at this time that's not authentic anymore. You could also be taking a stand on values within family, finally saying something that you've been maybe swallowing to keep the peace. And maybe you're refusing to keep performing a version of yourself at home that isn't truly you. Maybe you've fallen into a role, as we all do in our family dynamic, of you pick up the kids and you make up the dinner, or whatever it is that your role is. And you're kind of like, you know what? This is not working for me. And I need to say something, need to do something about it. And so you're reorienting, whether that's in your private life or your physical home life, to create an environment, again, whether internal or external, that's more conducive to your authentic self and more aligned with your values. This could also be about a fight to claim your home or living situation on your own terms. Like, you might be moving, you might be renovating, you might be even setting a hard boundary around what your space needs to feel like yours. So authenticity here is getting channeled through home, family, and the inner world. It's really happening from the inside out for you, Taurus risings. Can't help but notice that Chiron's also in your first house, and even though there's no like direct connection to Chiron other than the fact that, it squares my whole sign in this chart, it is in your first house and it's happening simultaneously with the eclipse. So is there a way in which you are gaining some wisdom around some painful aspect of your self-concept and you're taking action to resource yourself in a different way with this eclipse in your home and in your inner world? Just something to think about and reflect on. All right, now that takes us to Aries on the ascendant. This is putting Leo in your fifth house, the eclipse in your fifth house, rather. The fifth is about creativity. It's about self-expression. It's about romance, pleasure, children, and play, all things that are fun. And with Saturn and Neptune in your first house, look, there's an ongoing dissolving and restructuring at an identity level right now. And in that, you are inevitably going to be doing a revision of what's fun for you. Okay. What are you called to create? What are you called to do with your life force energy? When I talk about creativity, I'm not just talking about arts and crafts. And that's a misconception with the fifth house, that it's about like paintbrushes. And, I think most people on this channel know that it's not just about that, but it's worth reiterating that we are all creating all the time. That the whole work of being alive is creating something in the material realm, and you're creating whether you're aware of it or not. With this eclipse, you're becoming more aware of what you want to create, what you're called to create. And it feels like this restructuring around identity here is informing that in some way. We haven't really talked about Saturn here with respect to this eclipse, but it is trining by full sign and it is in the overcoming position. So it really feels like you're going out and doing something brand new to you. You are definitely getting out of your comfort zone with Saturn in your first house, but it feels like now that whatever you're wanting to create is very much outside of your comfort zone too. Like there's something very different that you're wanting to do, and you're willing to do it no matter what it might look like to other people. So I think this is a new beginning or a rebirth in how you express yourself and how you enjoy your life. A new era of dabbling in what feels uniquely yours to express. It does feel like literal artistry, even though we just had that whole tangent about how it's not just that in the fifth house, but I think it very much could be because Leo is very artistic and the sun is here, of course. Jupiter and Mercury are here. It feels like some kind of creative project coming together and you're ready to really get started with it. This could also be, though, about the children in your life asserting yourselves. I imagined in preparing this reading, like somebody with a teenager. Do you have a teen at home or do you work with kids? Because they might be asserting themselves a little more loudly, a little more boldly than you're used to. So something to kind of just keep in the back of your mind if you've got kids or teenagers in your life, especially. You might also be more of an advocate for kids at this time, like fighting for a child to be recognized, perhaps in their authentic light, advocating for a child in your life. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that for Aries risings. And overall, I think just being willing to share your authentic self through what you make and create, regardless of whether people get it or not, really betting on yourself and letting self-expression be the end in itself, not whether or not people get it. All right, this takes us to Pisces rising. Pisces friends, Leo is your sixth house of work, routine, the grind, your physical health, and being of service. So I think here there's a possibility that you're going on a new health journey, that you are, again, back to the idea of advocacy. I think Leo is a great sign for the advocate because it's someone who's willing to be authentic no matter who gets it. And an advocate really does have to speak up no matter who likes it or who doesn't. So are you advocating for your health in a new way? Are you learning something about what you need to feel good in your body that you're having to start fresh with? I think about something like refusing to keep pushing through when you recognize your body's asking you to relax, like being able to really tune in to your somatic intelligence and allowing that to guide you with what you need at this time. I also think about a new beginning with what you specifically need to feel good in your life. The sixth house is about the grind, but as somebody with a lot of sixth house natal placements, I found it to be a lot about the ability to whistle while you work, so to speak, to find the beauty in the minutia of life, the grind, the challenging moments, the chores. Like, can you treat scrubbing the floor as a meditation? That's the sixth house. So I think for you, there's something important about recognizing what you need to feel good and aligned in your body, in your life, and in your work, and in your health. You're advocating for yourself, maybe with a doctor, with your boss, and I think you could possibly be going rogue or speaking up about what needs to change, even when it's inconvenient. I'm thinking about a Pisces rising who may or may not watch this and recognize their story here, but they requested a few months ago to go part-time in their job, and they were feeling some things about the kind of shuffling that other people were going to have to do in order for that to happen. And in fact, now that I'm saying this, there's two different Pisces risings I can think of who are doing something along these lines. So are you taking a step back from work to take care of yourself? This is an important moment where you can recalibrate how it feels to be in your body and what kind of work that you're willing to devote your time and energy to at this time. So, principled stands when it comes to work, refusing an unfair task, maybe defending coworkers, a fight over how your daily labor gets valued. You're willing to stand up for what you know you need right now. And I love that for you, Pisces risings. All right, this takes us to Aquarius rising. Leo is going to be in your 7th house of partnerships and one-on-one relationships. Now, you have Pluto in your 1st house right now. And so you're in this long process of transformation with your identity. And this moment is a reset in your relationships. Someone else may very likely be the Leo figure here, speaking up and saying what they need. But because the 7th house always involves the 1st, just by the nature of the opposition, it's whatever is going on in your partnerships is reflecting something back to you. There's something about clarifying your role in the relationship when others speak up for what they need. I think about like a partner of yours takes their own stand or asserts themselves, and maybe you get pulled into supporting or witnessing the battle. And that maybe clarifies something for you about what you need and want. It could also be that you are the one advocating for yourself in partnerships, that you are rethinking the dynamic in the partnerships and where you fit into it. And you're speaking up more, you're asserting yourself more, you're more willing to share your authentic self in the partnership. That, I want you to like really sit with that, because you might be feeling totally in flux about your identity right now. This is depending on where your ascendant degree is, of course, but there is this purging and alchemizing of your identity right now. And I think seeing someone else really shine their light might reflect something important back to you about what that means to you personally. And if you find that other people are outshining you in your one-on-one relationships, and it's bringing up some uncomfortable feelings, some feelings of feeling disempowered, which is very much a Pluto experience, then that's your cue that it's time for you to assert yourself. It's time for you to speak up in that partnership. Maybe time for you to leave that partnership and find new partners. And that's not going to be the case for everybody, but really important to notice where you're feeling like you are not equally a part of the equation in your relationships right now, and finding the courage to speak up for what you need in the partnership is where you're going to find some positive momentum forward with this eclipse. Don't be afraid to say what you need, Aquarius risings, because you deserve to have your needs met. All right, Cap risings. Leo's in your 8th house of shared resources, transformation, merging, inheritance, power dynamics, surrender, fear. The 8th house is a murky one. I want to share a story about someone I know who is a Capricorn rising. Their brother passed away not too long ago, and as of recording this, it's July 31st as I record this, they just sold their brother's house. So that's a very 8th house thing, because one, this person helped their brother while the brother was in hospice. 2, the 8th is the place of death. It is the place of shared resources, and selling the house, they got some money from that. So that's a very literal textbook manifestation of an eclipse in the 8th house. It's a new beginning there. And it's interesting how new beginnings always come after an ending of some kind. So don't be surprised, especially with this in the 8th house, if there isn't some kind of ending that facilitates like a turning of the page and a new chapter. Beyond that specific example, I think about something where you need to assert yourself around debt or shared resources. It's similar to what we said for Aquarius risings, where you're navigating what's fair. What's fair for me? Am I getting what I need in this partnership? Is the distribution of resources taking me into account? With Cap risings, I think it's very easy for you to negate yourself, possibly. That might sound a little extreme, but you can put yourself last sometimes. And with this eclipse in the 8th house, it feels like you are really choosing to not do that. You are getting pissed, possibly, and saying, no, this is what I need. This is my fair share. It is a time for you to advocate for yourself directly instead of staying quiet, which I think may feel more comfortable for you sometimes. Really coming back to the idea that your ascendant ruler Saturn is in fall right now. You are having to advocate for yourself more than maybe you're used to, or in ways that feel comfortable for you. I also think that this could show up as standing up for yourself within a partnership around money, power, or vulnerability, refusing to keep hiding parts of yourself from someone you are merged with, whatever that means to you. Again, I think with Capricorn risings, it's very easy for you to put yourself last, to self negate, to say, no, that's okay. I'm good. I don't need anything. You take the last cookie or whatever. Like, I don't think you're doing that here with this eclipse. There's this thing of like, this is me. This is what I need in this partnership. And this is how we make it more fair for me. I also could see this as a release and a surrender around whether or not there's room for you to be authentic with others. I get this sense of like a guardedness kind of coming down with this, or at least the potential for that guardedness to kind of fall away and for you to really let other people see the real you, no matter how scary it might seem, because the eighth house can evoke our fears, but it also can bring this deep, beautiful surrender. So I think if you can surrender to letting people see the real you, speaking up for what you really need, you will be met with support. And if you're not met with support, you will have the courage to be okay with it. You will realize that that partnership, that agreement is really not for you anymore, and you will have the ability to do something about it. So stand up for yourselves, get what you need, and don't be self-effacing, Capricorn risings. Okay? Love you guys. All right, Sag risings, Leo's in your ninth house. I'm kind of obsessed with this for you. The ninth house is the house of philosophy, beliefs, travel, publishing, and higher learning. I'm thinking about publicly committing to a belief or teaching that you've been thinking about, chewing on. Maybe you're publishing something, you're writing a book, you're starting a podcast, you're starting a new learning journey, you're enrolling in school. Maybe you're a teacher, maybe you step into a teaching role at this time, actually, is what I mean to say with that. But regardless, you're on some kind of learning journey with this. The ninth house is also the place of divination and astrology. So if you're literally learning about astrology more during this time, that would not surprise me. But in any case, you're going on some kind of quest of understanding. The ninth house can also be about self-discovery. It does trine the first house, Bible sign. Obviously, Jupiter, your ascendant ruler, is here in the ninth house too, trining your ascendant. The sun also rejoices in the ninth. It's the house of God. And so in your natal chart, this is all hitting your ninth house. And it just feels like there's this deep clarity about who you are and what your operating principles are. Thinking about Jupiter, I'm thinking about ninth house themes. Something you're really passionate about that helps you feel more connected to your purpose, in the sense that it's connecting you to your deeper values and your basic operating principles. It may feel uncomfortable though. We talked about the kind of fear and the assertiveness that is the like subtext of this eclipse. So it may feel uncomfortable for you to go where your ninth house wants you to go. The ninth house is like this place of voyages and journeys, and you may feel afraid to get uncomfortable, to go into the unknown like this. You might be worried that it's weird or people won't get it. And I want you to really orient yourself in your values. This eclipse is a great time to reconnect with your values and the kind of values that you want to drive your life. So go deep with yourself and reestablish the bedrock of values that determine the decisions you make. I also think that this could be a break from a belief system. The ninth house being a place of spirituality, like you might discover that there's, a teacher you've been following that you no longer vibe with, or there's a community you're a part of where you no longer agree with them on a principle level and you need to break from that. And I think it's a good time to listen to that nudge if you get it. So I think overall though, Sag risings, this eclipse is going to help you feel a lot more aligned on a deep values level. It may get you out of your comfort zone, but you'll feel much more connected to your truth as a result of what this eclipse is going to bring up for you. This puts my Scorpio peeps on the ascendant. The eclipse is happening in your 10th house, guys. This is a public stand on your work. The 10th house is about career, public image, reputation, and legacy. So if you don't have a career, it's about your reputation. It's about what you're known for. And I think about something like this as you being willing to be known in all of your weirdness, whatever that means to you. And for me, weirdness and authenticity, they're kind of like the same thing looked at from a different angle, because to be authentic, you do have to be kind of weird. You have to be willing to be totally different, because we are all completely individual. We are all completely unique if we get down to a soul level. And it feels like you're willing to put yourself out there in a way that you maybe are not always willing to. I think about Scorpio risings being more guarded. It's Mars's feminine sign. There's a way in which Scorpio placements and Scorpio risings keep things really close to the vest. Like, is that the expression? Close to the vest, close to the chest? I don't know, but you get what I'm saying. Like, you're a little more guarded usually, or you're more selective with who you trust. And as a result, I would think that you're not always necessarily putting yourself out there in these big, bold ways. But here, it looks like you are. It looks like you're not afraid to be different. And you're not afraid for people to know you as the person who is different. So are you sharing a unique idea? Are you taking the stage in some way? Are you refusing to keep playing small in your career? Possibly. If you don't have a career, again, think about reputation, what you're known for. You're less scared to take a stand here, and you're more willing to be seen in your unique brilliance and to let that be your reputation regardless of judgment. It's like, you don't like me? Okay, bye. That's the vibe I'm getting here, that there is a confidence. Now, again, for all of us, there is this undertone of like a fear of rejection and needing to fight to assert myself. So it's not going to come super easily necessarily to just put yourself out there this way, especially given that it's kind of somewhat contrary to your natural inclination to kind of keep it all close. But there is a lot of reward, I think, for being willing to be seen in this way, because you give people the opportunity to see the real you. And yes, you're not going to be for everybody, because no one's for everybody. But the people you are for are going to be able to see you as you truly are. And you will, I think, be validated in that way by really letting yourself be seen in all your authentic glory. I could see this actually being you asserting yourself and your ideas and really embracing leadership. Leo can be about leadership. And I could see you maybe being put in a leadership role without being, without deciding to, but in being in that leadership role, whether you chose it or it was given to you, you get to do what you think is best. You are calling the shots. And I think that is really good for you, Scorpio risings. In general, I think you're ready to be seen in a way that you're not always willing to be seen. And I think you could also be possibly leaving a job or a role that's been asking you to be someone you're not. You're no longer willing to, at least at this time, just do the job if it's not aligned. There's something about what you're willing to commit to publicly that if it's not aligned, it's got to go. If it's not in agreement with my values, I'm not doing it. So I think your integrity is a big theme here. Checking in with whether or not the work you do in the world or your reputation is in alignment with your integrity. And if it's not, you're going to be doing something about it at this time. Okay, that takes us to Libra risings. My fellow Libra risings, I love that Venus is in Libra for this eclipse because there's not a lot of good Venus moments in the rest of 2026 for us. So this on its own is great, but let's talk about the eclipse. It's happening in our 11th house, which is the house of friends, community, hopes, wishes, allies, what we are striving toward. What is the vision? And I, first of all, think about taking a stand within your friend group. So as Libra risings, we are constantly seeing ourselves through other people's eyes. That is how we navigate the world as Venus people, as Libra risings. And I think it's fascinating that Leo is the cusp of our 11th house because, of many things, one thing it suggests to me is that we are constantly the hype man and not necessarily the Leo figure in the group, that maybe our friends are Leo figures. I know that's been the case for me, my dad, my sister, And many of my friends have Leo placements, and I have no fire placements in my chart whatsoever. At the same time, I think with Leo being on the cusp of the 11th, being the not just the place of friend groups, but also the vision that there is a part of us that deeply wants to be the star. Leo is the leading role. And I think we really want that, despite the fact that our MO is to accommodate other people. So an eclipse here, a couple of things. One idea is we're taking a stand within the groups we're a part of. We are willing to draw a line in the sand and say, you know what? I know you don't think this way, but here's what I think. Here's what matters to me. Here's what my values are, even if you don't get it. And this is actually like very much what's happening for me right now. I don't want to get too much into my personal life here, but there's this navigation for me right now leading up to the eclipse of how do I stay authentic to my values in the groups I'm a part of, knowing, like full well knowing that other important people in this group who are maybe more influential than I am will not agree with me. There is some navigating to do around that, but I think we have courage with this eclipse to say those things, to be okay with the fact that not everyone's going to agree. And that's huge for us because we're not good at taking authentic action sometimes, simply because we're often really focused on other people. It can be more challenging, I think, for Libra risings to really connect with that authentic impulse. So that's one possibility. Another is stepping into a bigger vision for where you're headed and maybe publicly committing to a goal or a cause alongside people who share it. There's this opportunity with this eclipse to say, is the vision aligned? Is the vision truly aligned with my authentic self, my values, my unique brilliance? Am I truly letting myself shine? Or am I going with what makes the most sense, what's most logical, what is less intrusive to other people, for lack of a better way to say that? Because we're always thinking about, as Libra risings, like how our actions affect other people, which is not inherently a bad thing, of course. But when we're talking about shining our unique brilliance, we need to be able to prioritize our own values. So is this aligned? We really need to take a second to recalibrate the vision with this eclipse and check in with ourselves, because again, like it's so easy to think you're aligned as a Libra rising and end up just doing what you think will get you praise and validation. Again, the shadow of Leo is like, I want the applause. Give me the applause. And I think we have an opportunity to go beyond that impulse and to find a vision that is deeply aligned with us, no matter what other people think about it. I also think it's a good advice to let your friends help you during this time, because seeing yourself through other people, as we tend to do as Libra risings, it doesn't always need to be a bad thing. Like, your friends could possibly mirror back to you your brilliance in a way that you can't always see. And I think hearing it from someone else can remind you of something true about yourself, something important about yourself that you maybe couldn't see or forgot. So it's a good time to be real with your friends. It's a good time to check in with your vision and to embrace the courage that I think this eclipse can give you to stand out from the group, no matter what other people think about it. Okay, last but not least, we've got our Virgo risings. My Virgo rising friends, Leo is your 12th house. It's the place of what's hidden. It's the place of isolation, of self-undoing in the subconscious. So this is a private reckoning here. And I thought about like finally admitting to yourself the fear that you might have not been aware of, or maybe even been avoiding, around being seen. And this is something that's happening internally, alone, before it's public. Because Leo is your 12th house, there's inherently this thing of Virgo risings of kind of what I said for Capricorn risings, like putting yourself last, putting other people first. Virgo is such a sign of service, and to be of service, you do have to be kind of self-effacing. And I think this eclipse is helping you see maybe where that's going too far, and where you've maybe calibrated too much into others and not enough into your unique brilliance and what you need and what feels good to you in your life. You might realize with this eclipse that you've been hiding parts of yourself. You've been dimming your light in ways that looked like being thoughtful or strategic, again, very Virgo, that are actually just keeping you hidden. And I think about the image of the Seven of Wands again, that the fighting that tarot card shows is actually you fighting with yourself. Like there's a way that you really want to shine and put your own unique spin on things, but the mercurial capacity to critique might get in the way, especially, we're talking about the 12th house. So the 12th house is already the place of self-undoing. There's a way in which it can be challenging for you to just let yourself shine unencumbered without the mental math of whether or not it makes sense or it will, impede on someone else or whatever the case might be. I think also about an exit from something behind the scenes, like stepping away from some subconscious pattern you become aware of, a situation that's been undermining you without anyone else knowing it. Something as simple as scrolling before bed, like you realize I'm doing these things that are really not in alignment with my values, and they're making it harder for me to live the life I want to live. Like I want to wake up and be able to meditate, but I'm waking up exhausted and I'm checking my phone every morning first thing. That's not how I want to live. That's undermining me. It could be something as simple as that, where you start to realize the ways in which you are getting in your own way of living the life you deeply want, of expressing your authentic brilliance, your unique brilliance, and you figure out how to make it easier for yourself to shine your light. All right, y'all, those were the horoscopes for the Leo eclipse happening on August 12th. It's a new moon eclipse. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear your intentions. Comment, let me know how this shows up for you, what you're anticipating, what questions you have. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I invite you to do so. Come back because we'll talk about the next eclipse happening later in the month, the full moon eclipse in Pisces. Can't wait to cover that with you. We'll do horoscopes for that as well. But in the meantime, I love you guys and I'll see you soon. Bye.